About some biological compounds, like in biochemistry we should know the basic of like carbohydrates, lipids, proteins. Biological compound, first of all we see the carbs. Carbohydrate classification, we have following types of carbs. We have the monosaccharides, disaccharides, oligosaccharides, polysaccharides. Monosaccharides are the simplest carbohydrate, right? They have just single sugar unit, you can say, like glucose, fructose, they all come under monosaccharides. While the disaccharide is when two sugar unit or two monosaccharides, they are joined together with the glycosidic bond. For example, glucose plus glucose making sucrose, like that. Sucrose, your lactose, they're all disaccharide. While oligosaccharide is when 2 to 10 monosaccharides, they are bound together with a glycosidic condensation, while polysaccharide is more than 10 monosaccharide units that are joined by glycosidic bonds. So when glycosidic bonds are formed, their water molecule is released. That's why it is called as a condensation reaction. Polysaccharides are, for example, starch, glycogen, they're all the polysaccharides. So starch is a storage form of glucose in the plants and glycogen is a storage form of glucose in the animals. So both starch and glycogen, they have alpha-1,4 glycosidic bonds that makes a linear chain, and at the branching point you have alpha-1,6 glycosidic bonds. In the exam, if they ask you the question, what are the final end products of starch hydrolysis? Your answer is limit dextrins and free glucose. Limit dextrins and the free glucose are the final end product of starch hydrolysis. That's an important question here. You can see how the different types of amylase enzyme which are breaking down the starch. Alpha amylase, beta amylase, gamma amylase, they are breaking down alpha-1,4, alpha-1,6 bond, and the hydrolysis products are being produced. Phenomena here, if you can see, there is something called as glycogenolysis, that is breakdown of glycogen, right? Because lysis is breakdown. So when glycogen is broken down, it will get glucose, right? And there is another process called as glycogenesis. Glycogenesis, formation of glucose, right? Glycogen. So you have glycogen synthase enzyme that helps in synthesis of glycogen, and you have glycogen phosphorylase enzyme that will break down glycogen to make glucose. Now inulin is another compound. It's a homopolymer of fructose. Homopolymer means it just have the same molecules like fructose, 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 like that. It's insulin. Inulin actually, and inulin is used to determine the GFR, just like creatinine is also used to determine the glomerular filtration rate. It's inulin. Then we have GAGs, that is glycosaminoglycans. Glycosaminoglycans, students, they are also called as body sponges. They are actually the heteropolymer. Heteropolymers means they have two different compounds. So it contains repeated disaccharide units of an amino sugar in it, that is N-acetyl glucosamine or N-acetyl galactosamine, and the uronic acid like gluconic acid, iduronic acid. Since there are two different molecules present here, they are the heteropolymer. GAGs, why they are called as body sponges? Because they are highly negatively charged and they absorb the water. So they are going to make the intercellular matrix, the connective tissue, and helps in cushioning the surrounding structures. Now let us talk about glycogen storage diseases. Whenever we talk about storage diseases, students, whether it is glycogen storage disease, lysosome storage disease, or mucopolysaccharide storage disease, you have to understand firstly what is the concept, what is meant by storage diseases. Let us say we have A plus B, that is the substrate of the reaction. In the presence of E enzyme, it is making C plus D, that are the products of the reaction. Now let us say this E enzyme is missing or it is deficient. What will happen? A plus B cannot convert to C plus D. Then what will happen to this A plus B? This A plus B, since it cannot convert to product C plus D due to deficiency of E enzyme, this A plus B are going to accumulate or store abnormally inside your body tissues. And that is what are storage diseases. Whenever we talk about storage diseases, mainly we have to remember that which enzyme is deficient in this storage disease. For example, the type 1 Van-Gurke disease, you have glucose 6-phosphatase deficient. If this enzyme is missing, glucose is not produced enough, because this is the main enzyme of gluconeogenesis, which convert glucose 6-phosphate back to glucose in the last step. Or another glycogen storage disease, you have a Pompe disease where your alpha-1,4 glucosidase deficiency, or type 3 you have a Cody disease, debranching enzyme is missing, or type 4 the Anderson disease where the branching enzyme is missing. So in all of them, glycogen storage diseases, because glycogen is not properly broken down to glucose, so the different intermediates that are formed in glycogenolysis converting glycogen to glucose, those intermediates start getting abnormally accumulated in liver, muscle like in Cory's, or liver in Anderson disease, or all organs in type 2 Pompe disease, or liver and kidney in the von Gerke disease. Now some mucopolysaccharide storage diseases, the important one we have the Hurlers and the Hunters. In these diseases, what is happening, the mucopolysaccharides or the GAGs that we discuss about, they are not being properly broken down, not being properly metabolized. So intermediates of the breakdown of glycosaminoglycans or mucopolysaccharides, they start getting abnormally accumulated, and that is called as MPS, mucopolysaccharide storage diseases. Like some of the important GAGs that can be asked in the exam, the one that you should know definitely is the hyaluronic acid, which is made up of gluconic acid and N-style glucosamine, and mainly it is found, we know, in the synovial fluid, in the intervertebral disc. Chondroitin sulfate, mainly it is found in the cartilage. Then dermatan sulfate for the skin, heparin sulfate for the basement membrane. We should also know a bit about the cellulose, which is a homopolymer of beta D glucopyronase. And if you remember, starch, glycogen, which have alpha bonds, but cellulose has the beta bonds. It's a major component of plants. Now chitin is a homopolymer of N-acetyl D-glucosamine. The shell that we have on the crustaceans like crabs, lobsters is made up of chitin. Now the components and function of saliva, we know it's very, very important that saliva, it has different properties, different enzymes. It has amylase enzyme that helps in digesting the starch, digestion starch from your saliva itself. Then it has a bicarbonate ion that helps in buffering, keeps your salivary pH close to neutral. The calcium in saliva helps in remineralization. Also saliva has IgA antibody, IgM antibody that have antibacterial effect. Lactoferrin that breaks down the hydrolysis of the cell membrane of bacteria. Lactoperoxidase, lysozyme, they all are antibacterial, antimicrobial in action. Then mucins, antibacterial, digestion, lubrication of the food. Protease helps in digestion action. Phosphatases for buffering. Proline that is found in saliva too, it has the functional lubrication and remineralization. Water and statotrin, antimicrobial and remineralization. While water, of course, helps in cleaning away action, debris, digestion, lubrication. Action that we should know, that how bacteria, they metabolize the dietary sugar that we take to produce caries. You have to remember the dietary sugar we have is sucrose, and the sucrose, students, in the presence of glucosyltransferase enzyme produced by strep mutans, because strep mutans is the primary bacteria that initiate your caries. Strep mutans has a glucosyltransferase enzyme that's going to act on your dietary sugar or on the sucrose, and it is going to convert the sucrose into glucans, which are also known as dextrans, plus levans, which are also known as fructans. Glucans are the polymer of glucose, and levans or fructans are polymer of fructose. Now both of them are sticky sugar, which will allow more bacteria to adhere to the tooth surface. And as a byproduct of this reaction, lactic acid is produced. And this lactic acid, student, is responsible for starting the caries, causing demineralization of enamel. Now there is something called as critical pH. Critical pH, student, is 5.5. What does it mean? Until your salivary pH is more than 5.5, your saliva has a capacity of buffering, bring it close to neutral by the bicarbonate ion action, like 7.2, 7.4, the normal salivary pH. But when the acid production becomes too much and the pH of your saliva drops below 5.5, that's when the demineralization of the enamel starts, because that is a very acidic pH when saliva cannot neutralize it further. That's when the demineralization of the enamel will start and the caries problem.